So let's start the evening with some interesting facts and figures that we are listed here. So there are lots of numbers we can see on this slide, but I will request your attention to the number 53,805, 53805. So those were the number of international students who later became permanent residents in Canada after they successfully graduated. So from that number, we can understand how much importance and value the government is giving to the international students and the contribution they are making to this great country. Uh, and also, 58% of PRs were into the economic class. So economic class is basically rated on the skill and the value that a client brings to Canada, and later they can settle and integrate to this country. So you can later go through these numbers when you have more time. So let's go to the next slide. So before we start the presentation, we will take a minute to inform you who is an authorized representative, or who can represent you on behalf of Canadian immigration. So there are only three categories of people who can legally represent you and represent your immigration file in front of the government. The first is consultants who are good members with the Immigration Consultants of Canada Regulatory Council, or in short ICCRC. So like myself or Mr. Hayden. Second group of people are lawyers or paralegals who are members in good standing with the Canadian Provincial or Territorial Law Society. And the last one are the notaries who are members in good standing of the Quebec Notary. So only these three category of people are legally allowed to represent you in front of Canadian immigration. So always make sure you are being represented by a legal authority. So this is just a small information picture given by the ICCRC. So you can visit their website to get more details about how you can select a authorized consultant. So the topics which we would be covering today are basically broken into permits, and also after you graduate, how you can work your way towards permanent residency in Canada. So the topics we'll be covering will be amending study permit, extending study permit, co-op work permit, and after you graduate, how you can apply for your postgraduate work permit or PGWP, commonly known, and how you can work towards your PR in Canada. Okay, so how you can amend the study permit? As you all know, when you come to your port of entry or to a major Canadian airport, the officer will issue a study permit once they feel that you are eligible to enter the country. So that's a valid legal document that authorizes you to study in Canada. But sometimes mistakes happen. You understand later that your study permit needs corrections. Maybe your surname is spelled wrongly, or there is no authorization for you to work part-time in Canada. So in that cases, we can always amend your study permit. So this is an example here. If you are eligible to work when you entered Canada, but your study permit does not state that you may work or accept employment, then you cannot work, right? So you will need to amend your permit before you can work in Canada. So this is a paper application. You cannot apply online for this application. So what are the documents you need to apply to amend your permit? So the main application form is IMM, stands for Immigration 1436. That's the major application form. And the supporting documents you will be needing to submit with your application are your original study permit. That means the permit which you need correction for. So you have to send the original permit for them to send you a altered or new copy, and a photocopy of your letter of acceptance from your college, photocopy of your letter of enrollment saying that or proving that you have enrolled for these many courses, and a scanned copy of your passport, that's your travel document, and also your government issued ID let's say your BC ID or a driver's license or even your birth certificate. And if you are using a representative, you will be also sending a form called IMM 5476. So this is a postal application. You cannot apply online. Okay, so make sure you sign the form before you send, because many times we see that people don't sign and send the package, and the package will be returned to you because you have not signed the form. And this is a mailing address where you need to send it as a regular mail or express post. The office is not Ottawa. And the current processing time is around 1 month. All right, so we will see how you can extend your study permit. So in some cases, you have more courses to take, or you have changed a college, you are new to Accenture, you have to extend your study permit to make you eligible to complete a program with a valid status. So the law says you should apply to extend your permit at least 30 days before it expires. So always make sure, keep an eye on the expiry date and give it enough time to apply it on time. And second point, you cannot extend your permit beyond your passport's expiry date. So your permit will be always aligned to your passport expiry date. So if your passport is expiring next month, the officer is not going to issue a permit for 2 years. So it will be always depending on your passport date. Also, you need to give your biometrics when you apply from within Canada. But recently, there are some good changes because the biometric centers are closed. All the Service Canada collection points are currently closed. So as a temporary measure, you don't need to provide your biometrics if you are applying to extend a permit within Canada. But when the Service Canada will be open again, you will be needing to provide the biometrics at a Service Canada location. Okay, so the main application form is IMM 5709. So this application can be applied online. So you don't need to take a printout and sign physically. You can sign online. So you have to make sure to validate the form. So once you open the form, there's a validate button on top and bottom. You just need to make sure to click that button to validate the form. And of course, you will be needing the supporting documents to show to the officer that yes, you are a good student, you have a good standing with a Canadian DLA institution. So the documents which you will be sending for extending the permit are letter of acceptance from your institution, your proof of financial support while you study in Canada. This is very important. The officer needs to know how you will be supporting yourself financially when you are applying to extend the permit. So you can show your bank statements or your GIC copy or your support letter from parents, etc. And copy of your passport, because the officer need to know when is your passport is going to expire, and a detailed photo. So make sure the photo meets the specifications as per the immigration guidelines. So as I was saying about your proof of means of financial support, these are some of the ways where you can prove that you have enough financial means to support your stay in Canada as a student. So as I said, you can show the GIC from a financial institution, or you can show your bank account with the bank statements. You can also prove that you have paid your first year tuition fee, or even you can get a letter from your parents or a person whom you're supporting your finances. So these are some of the proof that you can think about. So usually students ask me actually how much money they need to show when they need to apply their permit. So this is a approximate amount that the immigration department has been specifying as a base figure. So for 1 year, you as a student, you need to show $10,000 in your bank account. And if there is a family member with you, let's say your wife or husband, then you need to show $830 per month in addition to your tuition. So just doing a simple math with these figures, we can analyze how much money you need to show as part of your extension application. So how much it cost actually? So study permit application, the per person fee comes to $150. Biometric fee, temporarily you don't have to pay that fee because the biometric centers are closed, but it's $85. The current processing time is 27 days, which is quite fast actually. So the employed status, you need to understand this concept actually. So let's say your permit is expiring next month or within next 10 days. And if you're applying today, you can continue to study because you are in employed status, because you applied for the extension before your expiry of your current permit. So that keeps you in a valid status in Canada. Okay, so I know Accenture has a major co-op work term. So for doing the co-op term, you must need a co-op work permit. So you can apply for a co-op permit if you have a valid study permit, and you can prove that work is a major component in your program of study in Canada. And also you have a letter from your institution saying that this term is very important for you to meet all the requirements to graduate from the program. And the co-op term shouldn't be more than 50% than your in your program. It should be 50% or less than your study program. So the major application form to apply for a co-op work permit is IMM 5710, and the supporting documents you need to attach along with the application form is the co-op letter provided by your institution stating that co-op is a major component of your program, copy of your passport, your detailed photo as per the photo specifications, and use of representative form if you are using an authorized representative to submit your application. Again, comes to biometrics. Temporary, there's a pause on biometrics. You don't need to give your biometrics as of now, but again, when the service centers are open, you would be needing to provide one. Second point, the permit. How long the permit is valid? It usually depends on the length of your study permit. So you can apply for a co-op permit when you extend your study permit, or you can apply it separately. Yeah. And there's no fee for applying for a co-op work permit. It's totally free, and you do not need a job offer to apply. All right, so you came to Canada with a study permit. You have extended your permit to complete your studies. You done your co-op. So successfully you have graduated. So what's next? A PGWP, which is also a great pathway for you to gain the Canadian work experience and later work towards your PR in Canada. So some things to remember when you apply for your PGWP. Recently, there are many cases where students were refused with their PGWP because of less careful applications. So these points you should take in mind when you apply for your PGWP. First point, you must currently hold a valid temporary status. So you should be having a valid study permit status. And if your study permit has expired, you should be in a visitor status. So you should be having a valid status when you apply for your PGWP. Second thing, you must have graduated from an eligible DLI like Accenture. Also, you must do a program which is of length of at least 8 months in duration. Fourth point, very important, you should have maintained full-time student status in Canada during each term of your program. So you cannot study part-time and you cannot be eligible for a PGWP. So make sure you maintain full-time student status in Canada during each term. And documentation is very important. You should have your final transcript and official letter from your institution saying that you have met all the requirements and you have completed your program successfully. And last point, apply within 180 days of graduating from your program. So if you are graduating today, your clock starts ticking from tomorrow up to 180 days. So when we are saying about the 180 days, the very important point you have to make sure is your permit, the study permit will expire upon 90 days once you get your official transcript from the college. So from the 91st day, if you need to apply for a PGWP, you should be having a valid visa status. So either you apply within the 90 days of your program completion, or if you're applying later, you should have a visa status. So last point is, if you plan on staying in Canada and your study permit will expire before you apply for a PGWP, make sure to change your status to a visitor before your study permit expires. Also make sure once you have completed your coursework for your program, you can only work 20 hours until you get your final completion letter from your college. So if you're getting a letter today, and if you're only applying for your PGWP next week, you cannot work during that time. So you can only work once you apply for your PGWP. So you should stop working when you get your program completion letter from your college. So you are no longer authorized to continue to work in Canada, not even part-time. So students work part-time during this academic term, but when you get your final completion letter and transfer from the college, you should stop working even part-time. And of course, you can start working full-time once you apply for your PGWP. You don't need to wait until you get the PGWP in your hand. You can start working once you make the application. Once you click that submit button online, you can start working part-time or full-time. So this is a very common question that we usually face. How long will my PGWP be valid for? So usually the PGWP will be valid for the length of your program. For example, if you study for a program of 8 months, usually your PGWP is valid for up to eight months. So for example, it's a 9-month program, you will get a PGWP for up to 9 months. But mostly the students will do a 1-year program or a 2-year program. So if it's a 2-year program, you will be eligible to get a PGWP up to 3 years. And if it's a 1-year program, you are eligible to get a PGWP for up to 1 year. Yes, about your passport, make sure your passport is valid before you apply for a PGWP, because the length of your postgraduate work permit is always dependent on the length of expiry date of your passport. Even if you're eligible to get a 3-year PGWP, but if a passport is expiring next month, you will only get a 1 month PGWP, and later once you get your new passport, you have to apply to get an extension on your PGWP. How to apply PGWP? You can apply online. You can only apply online, and the fee to apply is $155 for the work permit, $100 for the open work permit fee, and the biometric fee is $85. So congrats, you got your PGWP. Then now you have to work towards your permanent residence in Canada. And as an international student, you have multiple pathways to achieve your PR status in Canada. So I will hand over the stage to Mr. Hayden, and Hayden will take you through the pathways to PR in Canada.
Thank you, Krish. Thank you, everybody. My name is Hayden Chinwala. I'm a regulated Canadian immigration consultant and a commissioner of oath. I own and run a company called BG Immigration. I would like to begin by thanking Accenda School of Management. It's an honor that Dr. Thomas has joined us today. Malaysia, AB, Karan, thank you. Without you all, this couldn't have been possible. And Krish and myself just hope that the brief information we are providing to you is useful and helpful for your future pathways to immigration to Canada. Krish was kind enough to explain the categories, the programs, mainly while you are studying. I'm going to cover a few things which is important after you are done with your education. There are 80 active programs currently and 55 different ways to become a permanent resident of Canada. So that being said, it is every case is different from itself, and it is impossible to cover everything in one particular session. Uh, to begin my part of the conversation today, I would like to share some current information which was just announced today. Federal skilled trade worker score cutoff, August 6th, and that's a Thursday, is 451. Am I correct, Krish?
Yes, that's right. That's right, Hayden. Yeah.
Yes, so that's a little bit on a higher side, but at least we have an outcome because federal skilled trade worker, we didn't hear about it for some time. As you all know, that express entry in itself is a point-based system. It has three categories: federal skilled worker, federal skilled trade worker, and Canadian express class. Tonight, I am going to talk and focus on the third category, as I mentioned, the Canadian express class, also known as CEC. Now, I'm not going to read every single word on the slide, but I would just give you an overview of the whole program and you can be how you can benefit from it. I am just going to make myself admin so I can share the presentation with you. So just give me a moment here, please. Okay, I think I am the admin now, and I am just going to put the correct slide. Thank you for waiting. Sorry about this, folks. I think we are just having some technical challenges, but won't be long. Karan, can you please help me here? It says that I'm no longer the admin.
Uh, you are the co-host, so just go to the middle, and it will show you the share screen option in the very center. Or you can just click on share screen at the middle, right next to join audio and invite others.
Okay, just give me a moment here. So can you see my screen right now?
No, we're not able to. You still gotta share screen through Zoom.
Okay, that is what I'm saying, and it says that you are closed out. Just one moment. I'm going to sign out and then. come back again.
Or Hayden, I can move the slides for you if that's more easy for you.
Yes, Krish, if this thing doesn't work, then
yeah.
it would be, okay, it says host disabled participant screen sharing.
It should work for you now again. I have reset the settings once again, just to ensure that it's working. It should be working.
Can you see my screen now?
Oh,
Okay, I am clicking on share screen,
yeah.
and I'm clicking on the presentation which I have currently on my screen, and it says I'm the admin, but I don't know why you are not able to see my screen. Krish, do you mind just bringing up the slide for me, please?
Yeah, sure. Yes.
Thank you, Krish. Sorry about that.
Yeah.
Canadian Express class is basically 1 year of experience with a Canadian employer in Canada, gives you an opportunity to become a permanent resident of Canada. Isn't that a wonderful thing? But before you are eligible, there are a few things which needs to be considered. Basic criterias are age, education, experience, English. I would go through some uh, important facts to keep in mind. So, language score, as it says on the screen, the language score required for this particular program is for job which falls under NOC code ONA should be CLB level of 7, and which falls under NOC B should be CLB 5. And Krish, do you mind just moving one more slide ahead, please? Thanks. So this is some brief information to keep in mind to increase your points. You may get admission, continue your study, apply for a master's or a bachelor's programs, which would gain more points, and get your educational credential assessment, which basically evaluates and gives you an equivalence to your international education, which you might have completed from back home. One important thing I would like to say is self-employment and work experience gain while you were a full-time student, even if you were on a co-op work term, does not count towards the minimum requirements for this program. So that is something really important to keep in mind. Krish, can we please move ahead? Thank you. So yeah, as we discussed earlier, the language eligibility, and the applicant should be admissible, should have a clean criminal record, security clearance, and no medical issues, because these are the criteria where an applicant gets analyzed and a decision is made. The processing time is approximately half a year, and the fees are just over 1,300. It depends. If you have a family, there is a charge of $225 per child. So this is Canadian Express class. Often clients ask me that can they apply for Canadian Express class and move to a different province? The answer is that you can move to anywhere in Canada except Quebec, because Quebec has their own Canadian Express Experience Class program, which is coordinated with the federal program, but a different pathway altogether. So the province of Quebec selects its own skilled worker. Before I end Canadian Express class, I would like to mention a few important things to you. You should have 12 months. That is, it can be a non-continuous full-time or equivalent to paid work experience under the NOC code, as I mentioned, O, A, and B, in the last 3 years before applying. Have gained the work experience in Canada after graduation in case of students with proper authorization, as we would require the employer to be a Canadian employer, and work experience gained in Quebec counts, but self-employed or while waiting for a refugee decision does not. So again, I don't want to confuse you, but Quebec has a different category. But if you have a work experience from there, it does count. But to keep in mind is self-employed and refugee categories, work experience does not. I have already shared the language eligibility score, which is CLB 7 for NOC O and A, and for NOC B, CLB 5. And one last thing before I end is there is no requirement to have settlement funds. So no need to prove any settlement funds, and by law, or if I talk particularly about this program, there is also no education requirement for Canadian Express class. But that being said, the education you have would help you to gain points and make you eligible, especially when these days the scores are actually increasing. So that is all about Canadian Express class. And now I would be jumping to the BCPNP, which seems to be very popular, especially among international students. And I think we are all fortunate that we live in British Columbia compared to all the other provincial nominee programs in Canada. Comparatively, BC has easier pathway, or probably I would say a hassle-free eligibility criteria to enter into these programs. It is also quicker, and it is a recommended pathway if somebody is falling behind the points in the federal express entry program. So to begin with BCPNP program, I would like to mention that there are 8 categories altogether. I would quickly tell you the names of 8 categories. Number 1, skilled worker. Number 2, healthcare professional. Number 3, international graduate. Number 4, international postgraduate. Number 5, entry level and semi-skilled worker. Number 6 is tech pilot. Number 7 is entrepreneur. And number 8, and the last one, is strategic projects. Today, we are going to focus on international graduate category. As you can see on the screen, that one must qualify to be eligible for this particular program. Under this program, there are 2 different categories. As I mentioned before, international graduate and international postgraduate. I would be talking more about it in our next following slides. So these are the eligibility criteria for an applicant to become eligible for this particular program. For international graduate, they need to have a job offer under the NOC code OA and B. Graduate from at least 8 months full-time eligible post-secondary degree or diploma in Canada, as mentioned by my colleague Krish. Must apply within 3 years after the degree or the diploma has been granted. For the postgraduate program, Krish, do you mind moving to the next slide, please?
Yes.
For the postgraduate program, a job offer is not required, but having one would definitely increase your chances towards PR eligibility. International postgraduate program requires graduate from an eligible master's or doctorate degree in BC within the last 3 years before application. Program must be in natural, applied, or health sciences. And work permit may be issued while processing the permanent residency. That being said, if you have a job offer, an employer to support your application, you can see the eligibility criteria Krish has put forward right now on the slide. But I would just like to briefly mention you that the employer should at least have the ownership or sole proprietorship, partnership in a business which is at least 365 days old. The business should be paying taxes. The business also should be making profits. And as you can see, some basic eligibility criteria to make the employer eligible. So that being said, the onus of the eligibility criteria does not only fall for the applicant, but it also is a crucial factor for an employer. Can we please have the next slide? So that was the BCPNP program, international graduate. Due to the time limitations, we won't be able to cover in details the rest of the programs offered under BCPNP, but we would be more than happy to answer your questions you may have. And my name is Hayden. Once again, the information on the right with the flight going upwards is my information with email and phone number. And the information on the left belongs to my colleague and dear friend Krish. You may contact us or feel free to shoot us an email, and we would be more than happy to assist you with any kind of immigration queries you might have, whether it's studying in Canada, living, working, permanent residency, citizenship, refugee, admissions to university, calling your parents, grandparents, anything, everything. So that is us. And once again, the students who are with us at the moment, if they may have any questions, we are ready to take. And before we end, once again, special thanks to Dr. Thomas for joining us today, and Exenda College, Melissa, AB, and Karan to make this possible.
Okay, shall I start with the question first?
Yes, Dr. Thomas, we will try to answer your questions.
No, it's fine. I think that kind of thanks goes to Melissa and Abby. They are really amazing. They are absolutely brilliant.
Yes.
Anyway, first of all, came across from my students only 2 questions they are asking me. So if when they finish their like a graduation, and if they apply for any PNP, like a provincial nominee program, and when they apply for the provincial nominee program, so are they eligible to move to another province? Like they have a provincial nominee program in BC and they want to move to Toronto or some other province like Alberta. Are they eligible to do so?
Doctor, to answer your question, if they are applying, as you said, under the BCPNP program, the requirement is that there should be an employer supporting their application. So basically, it's a job offer. It's an active, ongoing employment. When they file their when they submit their file, there can be auditing, investigation. The case officer might call the employer, the consultant, or even the applicant. And it is very vital to prove that they are actually in Canada, in British Columbia, and are eligible. So to coming back to your question, they need to be until an outcome has been received. After a permanent residence has been approved, hopefully they are eligible to work in any part of Canada.
Okay, perfect. No, of course, that means they need to show the source of income, obviously.
Correct. So we need a few of the documents to answer your question is offer letter, bank statements, pay stubs, duties and responsibilities. Yes, funds are required.
Yeah, and another question, fundamental question. So if any international students, if they want to come to Canada, especially VC, so is there any age limitation to get an admission at diploma or degree level, mainly degree level? Like is there any like age limitation, like it has to be a maximum 50 years old or 40 years old?
Yes, doctor, that's a very good question. I'll give a opportunity to Krish to answer that question.
Thanks, doctor. That's a very important question. The short answer is no. There's no age restriction because Canada believes that education is an opportunity for everyone. So they don't have any presumption or any other assumption against any candidate seeing their age. It's a mix of various parameters or various factors an application is based on. The program they choose, their study plan, what they're achieving from this program, why they are not following a similar program back in their home country, etc. So it's a mix of various factors and how the applicant can prove that he's a genuine student. So there is no age cutoff.
Okay, perfect. Thank you. I'm sorry, I'm asking too many questions because
no, you are most welcome.
I had an induction, that means in a session with my internship student this morning, and then I came across so many things from them. Actually, they most of the questions are really relevant and valid.
Yeah.
So
sorry, Dr. Thomas, can I please interrupt? I think Krish beautifully answered the question, but I would just like to mention this information, which might be very helpful and useful for the potential inquiries your college might be receiving. Unfortunately, outside Canada, there are less or hardly any licensed consultants practicing in home country. So when you go to a agent or a ghost consultant or somebody who is not licensed to process your study permit or get an admission to a privileged institute like yourself, Exenda School of Management, and if it's a mature international students, they would bluntly say and be upfront that they are not eligible, but that is not the fact. People come here at an age to study, probably above 55, but it is how you coordinate and correlate. That being said, that if they want to upgrade themselves, if they have a gap between their past education and a future potential degree they are looking to, but can explain that they have gained work experience to see themselves grow. So as Krish mentioned, absolutely there is no age limit, but unfortunately a very few people outside Canada know about this, and many potential international students don't get an opportunity to come to Canada just because of lack of awareness or misleading information.
Yeah, yeah, you are absolutely right. Thank you. And my last question was, very often, actually, not majority. Yeah, right now, actually, majority of our students, they have applied for co-op work permit. You know, for internship, because they are starting their internship from this September, and they have applied for co-op work permit, but they have not get any permission, or they have not get any, answer from the border agency. And then, while their co-op work permit is waiting process, are they legally eligible to start their internship, or they have to wait for the permission?
Krish, would you like to answer, or can I answer that?
Because we are facing this issue nowadays very often, and then students are really frustrated, and they just get a little bit of course, it's frustration situation. So
Yes. Yeah, so it's a very common challenge faced by many students. The answer again is no, they cannot start working unless they get their approval in hand.
yeah, you're absolutely right. So yeah, that's why I just told them, because we cannot take any kind of risk which is associated with the immigration, because we need to show to
Yes.
the employer, so you have got a permission to work
Yes.
from the border agency. If somehow border agency they inquire, so we have nothing to say, we cannot take that risk.
That's right. Yes.
And then in that case, they may have to wait, better to wait, but then they cannot start their work.
Absolutely. A student can only undertake activities which their current permit is allowing them to do.
Yeah,
So,
exactly.
yeah, so if they have a valid study permit in hand, they can study full time and they can work part time. So if they want to undertake a co-op program, they need to have a valid co-op work permit in their hand. Yeah.
By the way, so I think you both are very familiar with the new procedures, because I came across, when I started with Exent, I came across the new procedures from the border agency. Nowadays, border agency, they issue a study permit when they are back home. Okay, when they arrive to the airport, like a border agency, then they issue the co-op work permit straight away.
Yes, that's right.
Yeah,
So
this is the new practice for the students. Actually, I have came across. So then I just thought maybe I should share with you guys.
yeah, I mean, it's not a new practice actually. It's there for a while, but actually the students or the consultants we call back home, they are not aware of this possibility actually.
Yeah.
So when we apply for a study permit, there's a question which asks you, do you also want to apply for a co-op work permit? So if a co-op work permit is part of your study component, you can say answer yes. And when they gets you the study permit approval letter, and when you travel to Canada, you can collect the co-op work permit and the study permit from the port of entry. So the officer can see that they have applied for both, and the officer will verify the documents and they will issue both at the same time. Yeah, it's a very convenient way of applying for the co-op permit along with the study permit, but many students are not aware of this convenient option.
Yeah. Thank you for that. Thank you for sharing. Thank you.
Sure. Yeah. So Karen, any questions from our participants? I can see 2 or 3 students are with us this evening.
Yeah, for sure. There's Alejandra and there's Simran. So
Yes.
if you guys have any questions, feel free to unmute yourself and ask away.
Yeah. Or even you can type in the chat box and yeah, we can get it from there.
Or if there is something which you might think of even after this meeting,
Yes.
you have our email addresses and cell phone numbers on the screen right now.
I have a question.
Sure.
Sure, Karan.
So what about the part you said that you should be a full-time student at all times? Because some students do take a summer term off as an academic break and work full-time. Does that affect their work permit later on?
Not really, actually. So the full-time terms are fall term and spring term. So they need to be having a full-time status for those two terms. And summer term, most institutions are having a break term. So it usually considered a break term, but again, it depends on the program that they take, because some programs which is having a condensed course length will be having a full-time course load even during summer. So students are expected to meet that course load even during summer. But other than that, in most cases, summer they can work full time. That doesn't affect their PGWP application.
Thank you. And Alejandra just typed in a question. She's asking, can I apply for BCPNP before graduation?
Hayden, would you like to take that?
Yeah, so it depends actually what category you are applying for your BCPNP program. If you are applying for the international graduate program, which I just stopped and covered, um, it you are required to finish your education, because that's one of the eligibility criteria for international graduate program BCPNP. You are required also to have a job offer, and not only a job offer but a job title, position, duties and responsibilities which fall under NOC code O, A and B. I hope I
Okay.
have answered your question.
Okay, thank you.
Hello, all. Any other questions for them?
No.
Hello. Yes, sir. I have a question.
Yeah, sure.
Okay. I want to ask that what kind of questions do border services officers they ask when we arrive in Canada? For example, right now I'm in India, and I just want to get an idea that what kind of questions they generally ask.
Sorry,
Yes.
sorry. When you say that you come here for the first time via a flight, correct?
Exactly, yeah. Because during COVID-19, like it is going on, and I just want to know that they are asking more questions or like normal questions that they were asking before.
I can answer your question. Absolutely, it is not as before. Things have changed drastically, but I don't want to sound discouraging and scary, because um the questions are usually normal. They make sure that you are healthy, you are eligible, and do the verification process and let you go. To keep in mind is to have a quarantine plan, have a secured accommodation. Next 14 days, you should be safe and sound without any commuting and communication with another human being. But apart from that, as long as you have a valid visa, valid study permit, offer letter, um, you shouldn't be concerned about it. But make sure that you get an accommodation which gives you a mental peace or a security for at least 2 weeks once you land in Canada. Because sometimes I notice that my clients come here and for some or the other reason they change their accommodation, whether it's just temporary or whether it is not a suitable one, or whether they look for a closer option to their college and university. Regardless, under these circumstances, you would require a definite residential address or an accommodation to keep yourself isolated for 14 calendar days.
Okay. By the way, so can I just share my experience?
Sure.
Well, recently, in regards to your question, recently I just moved from England. Actually, I used to live in England 14 years.
Okay.
So I moved from London like in a beginning of April as a heavy pandemic time, because
Okay.
my job is started from April and I had to just come here because of the responsibilities. And then in order to arrive in BC, you just first of all, you need to fill the online form. If you go to BC government, there is the isolation plan form.
Correct.
You need to complete on online, and your flight details, your airlines number and everything. And then you need to show or demonstrate you have got a proper isolation plan, whether you live it within a family or we live in a hotel, but you need to show 14 days. So as soon as you arrive in Toronto airport, mainly that higher transportation via Toronto or maybe the Montreal, but then if you arrive in Toronto, then they need to complete some form, like where do you live, phone number and everything. And they may ask you some basic questions regarding actually what you're going to study, what are you going to study, and they want to justify your subject knowledge. Actually, you're a proper student. However, that is not the end. So when you just arrive in, Vancouver airport, so they are not going to ask you anything. So because first, a land of that means place of land actually. So you will be asked question. So when you arrive in Vancouver, so you have to stick with your 14 days plan. Do not move anywhere because they keep calling you. Okay, that the health security, they always call you. They wanted to just verify so you are under proper isolation plan. If you want to move or have any plan to move after 14 days, not before that.
Okay, thank you, sir.
Am I clear?
Thank you, Thomas, and thank you, Hayden. Thank you very much, both of you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yes, and also I would like to add a couple of points to Hayden while mentioning about the travel plans. So currently there's a travel ban in place till August 31st. So if the student wants to travel before that, the student needs to prove that the travel is non-discretionary and it's a non-optional travel. So what it means by the immigration department is that all the institutions are running their programs online for the fall term. So the student needs to prove that why his travel is inevitable and an on-campus study is inevitable for him. For example, if the student is having a laboratory lab component or it's a science graduate and he needs to attend on-campus labs, that could be one reason. Or maybe the internet bandwidth or the technical limitations in his home country, that could be another reason. So usually institutions these days, they usually issue a support letter for the students to show at the departing airport, whether it's India or other country. The student can carry the support letter to prove that why his travel is inevitable at this time, because there's a travel ban in effect. So this particular student, if you're planning to travel before August 31st, please make sure that you have valid reason to stay to the airline officials in your home country.
Yes, you are. Sorry, I'm just sharing again. Actually, so many experiences I have to face. Recently, a few of our students, they wanted to come to Vancouver, British Columbia from a different destination. I'm not going to mention which country.
Yes.
But then from that, then they booked the flight. Everything was perfect. And then only one airlines, I think is Cathay Pacific Airlines or something, and they didn't allow a student to just get on board.
Yes.
Because the student didn't have the proper isolation plan.
Yes.
So then in that case, they refused them to just, get into the board. So then in that case, you must have any proper documentation, make sure your all documents are with you.
Yes, that's right. Yeah.
I feel that's all, gentlemen. Thank you all for joining, and thank you for this beautiful and wonderful and informative presentation. Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you very much, Karen, and thank you, Dr. Thomas, and thank you to Melissa, Abe, the entire college community. Thank you very much, and it's always a great pleasure to meet the students and answering their questions. Yeah.
Okay, thank you all. Definitely, we are going to see you again. Thank you. Have a nice evening all.
Sure. Thank you. Bye.
Okay, thank you. Thank you. Bye-bye. Have a nice day.